Are we in Yemosa Mashiach?
A Jew in Gaulis should never feel comfortable where he is. Something is happening. And the fact that the whole world now is against us seems to be what the Torah says, the Navi says is going to be Gog and Magog. The whole world's going to come against Eretz Yisrael. We're in the Zman called the Ikvus of the Mashiach, the very end of Gaulis before Mashiach comes. And if you hear constantly, right, and you're attuned to it, and you want to feel that feeling, you'll feel that feeling every single day.
Today, I sat down with one of the giants, one of the leaders of the Jewish people in Israel today, who is native to the Bronx. And I asked him some questions, and I sent him an email, and surprisingly, he agreed to do the interview. So in this video, we're going to share that interview, and I want to tell you that you will be shocked what he said, and it's probably not what you're thinking. And I wanted to share this with you. I encourage you to watch till the end. It's very exciting for me to be able to finally ask some of these questions that everybody seems to be asking, and everybody's giving opinions. And I wanted to get Das Torah. He's a person, a Rav, a Gadol, who has spoken as keynote speakers at the Torah Masorah Convention, at Agudas Yisrael, the OU, AJAP. So without further ado, here is Rabbi Zev Leff. Are we in Gog and Magog? Is Mashiach finally here? Take a look.
The same person who goes to a Daf Yomi in Chutz La'aretz, coming to a Daf Yomi in Eretz Yisrael is a different Daf Yomi.
Okay, do you want to just jump into it?
Yeah, fine. I think so.
Rabbi Leff, it's a true privilege to have you with us. 40 years ago, Rabbi Zev Leff left a prominent lifelong rabbinic post in Miami and brought his family to a hilltop in Jerusalem with barely electricity and barely running water, and helped pioneer Moshav Matisyahu, probably the first American or one of the first American Jewish Torah communities in Israel. My question's like this. Since October 7th, with the rise of anti-Semitism in the world and recent election of mayor of New York, I know you're from the Bronx, and the Jews have always been welcome in New York, and for the first time, this has come up on people's radar that perhaps we're no longer welcome in Golus. So, Rabbi Leff, could you share your insights on the Torah view on whether every Jew should want to be living in Israel right now before Mashiach comes?
Okay, let me preface with the words of the Kliyoker. The Kliyoker and the Pasuk, K'maise Eretz Mitzrayim, Asher Yeshavtim Bo Lo Sasu, K'maise Eretz Canaan Asher Mevi Eslem Shoma Lo Sasu. So he says what it means is the following. Don't copy what they did in Mitzrayim, that there are many people who were comfortable in Mitzrayim, even being slaves, and didn't want to leave. And don't copy what they did concerning Eretz Yisrael, that the Meraglim didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. A Jew in Gaulis should never feel comfortable where he is. He should realize that the place that was meant for Klal Yisrael to be is Eretz Yisrael. And if it wouldn't have been for the reasons for the Churban and the Golus, we would be in Eretz Yisrael. A Jew outside of Eretz Yisrael is not in his proper place. As the Maral says, it's not natural for a Jew to be outside of Eretz Yisrael. But there are reasons why HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants that to happen temporarily. If a Jew understands that it's temporary, and he's always ready and waiting to be able to return to Eretz Yisrael where he belongs, then the Golus can be a sweet Golus sometimes. But once you get too settled in Golus and you think that that's your place, and you have no reason and no desire to ever go to Eretz Yisrael, then that in itself makes the Golus a very bitter Golus. And sometimes the Rebbeinu Shalom reminds us that that's not where we belong. You can't get too comfortable in any Golus for too long. And the Rebbeinu Shalom reminds us that Golus is a very temporary thing. And the desire, at least, to go back to where we belong should be there. Basically, bottom line, until Mashiach comes, the entire Jewish people can't return to Eretz Yisrael en masse. But an individual thing, people can fulfill the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael as individuals, or even as individual communities. And sometimes the Rebbeinu Shem gives us signs that we're becoming too complacent and too settled in a golus and thinking that that's really where we belong. And then he gives us signs that maybe that's not where we belong, and that's not where we should be complacent. What's happened since October 7th, and even in America, where all over America, anti-Semitism is raising its ugly head, and even, or mostly by the elite, intelligentsia, college campuses or whatever, I think Jews have to wake up and see that even America, which was a very, very sweet galus, and a land that afforded Jews tremendous amount of freedom, it's not forever. And therefore, a person should realize that if it's possible for him to make a move to Eretz Yisrael, and possible means that all of the conditions will make his life in Eretz Yisrael, Torah-wise, as good or better than the Torah life that he has in Chutz La'aretz, then there's no reason in the world why he shouldn't pick up and move. After planning well, making sure that he can make a parnasa, making sure he has a kehillah that he can live in, and have a rav, and have chinuch for his children. After all of that is taken care of, and today that's becoming easier and easier to find in Eretz Yisrael, then he should seriously think of moving. If after making all those considerations, his Torah life will definitely be better where he is now, then he has to at least realize that he has a goal. That if those conditions change, then he'll pick up and go to Eretz Yisrael. But until those conditions change, then maybe the Rebbeinu Shem wants him to be in Golus. But he should always be ready, especially the way the situation is now, to be able to pick up at a moment's notice. We should make sure that he's not, doesn't feel that he's entrenched, and that living wherever he is, whether it's in the United Kingdom, whether it's in the United States, or wherever, is something that can last forever. And therefore he should always have a plan, a contingent plan, to be able to pick up and move as fast as he can if the situation gets to be one where it's impossible to remain there.
What do we say to the person who's just following the Torah? He's well off. He can afford to buy a house. He may even already own a house in Beit Shemesh. And he's, on the fence about coming to Eretz Yisrael, and he could pull it off financially. What would we say to such a person? What would the Rav say would be the benefit in his life to be able to come to Eretz Yisrael today, before Mashiach comes? What's the Chibas HaOretz? I know the Rav wrote an introduction to Ema Bonim Smecha many years ago. Where is the Anglo Aliyah? I think that was the Frum Anglo Aliyah, I think, something to those words. And if that is still applicable today, can we, since we have very good yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael, we have very good yeshivas in Chutz La'aretz, so would there be an added benefit or a reason, mitzad of the Torah, that a person should come to Eretz Yisrael even if he's learning Torah well in Chutz La'aretz?
Yes, there are for sure miles of being in Eretz Yisrael. First of all, it's a mitzvah to live there. And the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael is all enveloping, and it has an effect on a person's entire life and lifestyle if he uses it properly. So that's the first thing. And even if there's no chiyuv, there's no mitzvah chiyuvish to live in Eretz Yisrael, but there definitely is a mitzvah kiyuvish. In other words, if you're there, you are mekayim a mitzvah. You should know there's no mitzvah chiyuvish to wear tzitzis. But I don't know of too many frum people who don't wear tzitzis. If you have the opportunity to put on a garment with four corners and have the mitzvah of tzitzis, everybody runs to do it. So somebody who has the opportunity to have that tremendous mitzvah of Eretz Yisrael, which is shkula keneged kol mitzvahs, it's equal weight in all the mitzvahs, living in Eretz Yisrael. So somebody who has the opportunity to do that and ignores it flippantly, out of hand, obviously is not functioning like a frum Jew should function. That doesn't mean that every person has to pick up and move to Eretz Yisrael, because of the realities that Eretz Yisrael is governed not by a religious, by the Torah, but by a irreligious, secular government. And many of those elements in the secular government are even anti-religious, not interested in seeing Eretz Yisrael be what it really should be. So there are challenges, just like there are challenges everywhere. And you have to find the right community where the right kind of influence will be. You're living amongst frum Jews in Eretz Yisrael with the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael is very, very a positive aspect to a person's life. Your children will be around frum people. The influence of the Goyim is much, much less here, right? Even though there's an influence of secular Jews, but there's secular Jews everywhere. And in Chutz La'aretz, there are Goyim also who are much worse than secular Jews also. So, and if you can find a place where the education would be superior or at least equal to the education you can have in Chutz La'aretz, there are many fine educational institutions in Chutz La'aretz, but Baruch Hashem, there are very many options in Eretz Yisrael now where a person who's used to the kind of education that exists in America would suit him here in Eretz Yisrael. For a long time, that didn't exist, and the mode of education was very different in Eretz Yisrael. And for many children brought up in Chutz La'aretz, families brought up in Chutz La'aretz, it was not the kind of education that they wanted for their children, even though it was a fine Torah education. But now there are many options here in Eretz Yisrael of really good educational systems where the Limudei Kodesh far surpasses whatever they can get in Chutz La'aretz. And there's also a secular education too, which most parents who are brought up in Chutz La'aretz are looking for. So that's an option also now. And if you have a Rav in Chutz La'aretz that you follow, and you live in a community that has direction, you have to find in Eretz Yisrael a similar community, a community where there's a Rav who can direct you, and people can't just live on their own without a Kehillah and without a Rav that can give them direction. Parnasa is also an issue. Person who has a fine Parnasa in Chutz La'aretz and will have a trouble struggling in Eretz Yisrael may take away all the milas of Eretz Yisrael for that person and cause too much stress on his family, and he'll lose out on all the milas of Eretz Yisrael because of the shalom bayis that won't be there and all of the worries because of a lack of parnasa. Taking everything in consideration, I think every Jew in Chutz La'aretz has to realize that they're only there temporarily. And for them, temporarily may mean the rest of their life. But Klal Yisrael belong in Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, if our ancestors had the ability to come to Eretz Yisrael the way we do today, right, just to spend some money, get on a plane, relocate, there's not one Jew who would have remained in Europe. But the Yetzer Hara, when it's not possible, doesn't care. So he left them with their desire. Now it's so easy to come here, so the Yetzer Hara has to take away the desire, right? Because if the desire would be there and the implementation is so easy, who would stay in Chutz La'aretz? So the Yetzer Hara took away the desire, and people think that they can prosper better in Chutz La'aretz, and there's no reason for them to move. That idea is trait. There's definitely a reason to be in Eretz Yisrael after considering all of the options where a person's Torah life will be the same or better, then Eretz Yisrael is the place. Right? If for whatever reasons, for that specific person, because of parnasa, education, kehila-wise, their Torah life will be better in Chutz La'aretz, and temporarily, until those situations change, that's where they have to be. But they should feel they're being there not because they want to be there. They're there because circumstances prevent them from getting the Mila and having the schus of living in Eretz Yisrael.
Maybe we could talk about something which is not talked about enough, which is the Ruchani part of Eretz Yisrael and the Kesher with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we experience in Eretz Yisrael, the Siyata D'Shmaya that people have. This, the faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe the Rav could expand on that part of the equation.
Torah tells us that Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Asher Eini Hashem Elokecha Ba Mereishis Hashana Ve'Anach Rishon. There's a special Hashgacha Pratis in Eretz Yisrael, and it fits us like a glove because we're a people who have a special Hashgacha Pratis. And the Netziv, even though the Netziv says that as an individual Jew, sometimes living in Galus, you need more Hashgacha Pratis, but as a Jewish people in general, right, and as the place where you live, the Hashgacha Pratis is only in Eretz Yisrael. So a person comes to Eretz Yisrael, aside from fulfilling a mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, which is a constant mitzvah. Cook points out that there's two mitzvahs that you fulfill with your entire body. One is the mitzvah of sukkah, right? Your whole body goes into the sukkah, and the other is a mitzvah of Eretz Yisrael. I always like to say it's even more than that. In the sukkah, the ground is not really part of the mitzvah, just the walls and the roof. In Eretz Yisrael, not only is the whole surrounding and what's above part of the mitzvah, what you're standing on is also part of the mitzvah. It's even better than the sukkah. So aside from that, you have a special closeness to Hashem. And anybody who lives here can tell you that in their personal lives, they feel that the Ribono Shel Olam is there guiding them, is there. There's a constant reminder in Eretz Yisrael, both as a nation and as individuals, that the Ribono Shel Olam is always there. Sometimes in Chutz La'aretz, you don't necessarily feel that all the time unless you make a tremendous effort to push yourself to feel it. But here, you don't have to make a tremendous effort. It's there. And not only that, but the Limud Torah in Eretz Yisrael. The Ein Torah Ketorah Eretz Yisrael. It's a different Torah. It's a different learning. The same person who goes to a Daf Yomi in Chutz La'aretz, coming to a Daf Yomi in Eretz Yisrael is a different Daf Yomi, a different Torah, a different Tam in Torah. And you can't explain it. Tam ura'u. You can't explain to somebody what something tastes like, right? Something good. You have to taste it yourself. And people who know, who come here as tourists at least, know when they're here, they have that extra special feeling. And when they go back, they know that they lose that feeling. And if you're here constantly, right, and you're attuned to it, and you want to feel that feeling, you'll feel that feeling every single day. And children become more aware of all the places here that referred to in Tanakh. The Tanakh becomes living. You know, places that are called not New Jersey and not New York, but Beit Shemesh and Yerushalayim and Ashkelon and Ashdod. And all these places are mentioned in Tanakh. These are the places where our forefathers and foremothers lived and spent their lives throughout history. So all of those milas are something that a person should look forward to having, barring any reasons why, for them specifically, that dream can't come true.
One last question, and then we'll wrap it up, because I know the Rav's time is valuable, and I thank you for your time. Last question would be, are we in Yemos HaMashiach?
I'll tell you what the Ponevezher Rav said. He said, if you ask me if Mashiach is here, he's not here. If you ask me if I hear his footsteps, I hear his footsteps. We're in the Zman called the Ikvus of the Mashiach. the very end of Golus before Mashiach comes. So, as said the Chafetz Chaim and the Rebbe Chanan Wasserman, and the events since the Holocaust have been leading up the fact that we have Eretz Yisrael back, and the fact that Jews have come from Russia and from Ethiopia and from America. There's a certain kibbutz golios that's taking place, and that Eretz Yisrael is being built up, and there's tremendous rebirth of the economic and the rebirth of the land, legabe its crops or whatever. There's a sign that something is happening, and the fact that the whole world now is against us seems to be what the Torah says. The Navi says is going to be Gog and Magog. The whole world's going to come against Eretz Yisrael, and so events seem to be progressing very quickly towards some end, and that end we're promised is going to be a very happy ending. So whether Mashiach is here or not, or on the way or not, is irrelevant. The same mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael applies whether Mashiach is coming, not coming. It's not the ikr. But if people want to be part of what's going on and be part of what the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us, a tremendous present, and halavai, it's in order to reach that level of Bias HaMashiach, then you don't want to be on the sidelines looking in. You want to be part of it and be here and be part of what's developing. And if more religious Jews would come here, the country here would look different, because the whole demographics would change, and the majority would be here, would be from, then the government would also be a more from government. So instead of sitting in Chutz La'aretz and complaining about what the government's doing here, come here and change it.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi Leff. If there's one key message from this talk, what would that be? And then maybe you could lead us out with a bracha. Thank you.
I think the ikr message is that every single Jew, as they have for thousands of years since the Churban, have dreamed and longed to return to Eretz Yisrael. That dream and that longing has to be even when Golus is sweet. If everybody would realize that, barring any reasons why for them it's impossible, they would be the next day in Eretz Yisrael, then if you live like that, then first of all, you'll live in Chutz La'aretz, a life that is similar to the kind of life that's conducive in Eretz Yisrael. And secondly, when the conditions become possible, you'll pick up and move to Eretz Yisrael. If you have no desire, you have no reason to think that there's something special about living in Eretz Yisrael, then even if the conditions were ideal, there's no reason for you to come here, and that's something that is against the entire framework of what Klal Yisrael is.
Thank you again, Rabbi Leff. Your words give us a lot of chizuk, chazak v'amatz. I appreciate your time. May we be zoichet together to see Bias Goyal Tzedek Meheir v'Ameinu Amen.
Amen, amen. And you keep up your good work.
Thank you. Kol tov.